Welcome to the New Life Stories channel. We hope you will have fun with us. Enjoy watching.
On a luxurious huge balcony, a beautiful woman was lying on a chaise lounge. A cute hat, an elegant swimsuit, that was all the woman was wearing at that moment. Grace had always been very pretty. As a little girl at the holidays, standing on a stool and telling a poem, all the guests just admired the girl's charms, dimples on her cheeks, luxurious braid. Grace could not be called especially clever in comprehension of sciences, but she always knew how to come to her goal. Even at school, the girl was distinguished by her enterprising spirit, not splurging on unnecessary socializing, looking for her own benefit. Having a very pleasant appearance in the last years of school, the girl never carried a bag by herself. There were always a couple or three boys who competed in their eagerness to escort the beautiful Grace home. Even during her student years, when her friends had fun at discos and slept in the neighboring dorm rooms with gore students, Grace kept her innocence, wanting to sell it more expensive. Vanilla dreams did not last long. By the 5th year, when the girl turned 21, she met her prince. And let the man was older by 14 years. He was successful, rich, the owner of his own business. And how he courted. At the wedding, he and Michael, that was the name of Grace's husband, swore eternal love and fidelity. It couldn't be said that Grace was madly in love. Yes, Michael was an interesting man. Yes, he idolized Grace. It would be fine. That's what she thought when she got married. The only spoon in this barrel of honey was the 11-year-old son of the chosen one. Grace did not plan to raise other people's children, but a tasty piece of cake in the form of Michael was too desirable. Now Grace has already turned 28 years old. Husband, being a real workaholic, has greatly increased his fortune, offering Grace a trouble-free life. Education given by the Institute, the woman did not need. Being under the wing of a strong man gave Grace the opportunity to live simply for his own pleasure. If at the age of 21 Grace looked just a pretty girl, now she turned into a luxurious woman. Beauty salons, fitness, Botox, a little silicone, and now she's a goddess. Now this beauty was lying in a chaise lounge, exposing her luxurious body to the warm July rays. The trip to the sea was cancelled because her husband had an urgent project, and such a beauty to let go alone Michael categorically refused. Most likely, Grace would now generally sunbathe topless, but the apartment was walking Stepson, and to appear naked in front of him she clearly did not want. By the way, their relationship did not work out almost immediately after the wedding with her husband. First, the boy all remembered his mother who left them, then he hated Stepmother. Over time they decided to simply observe neutrality and almost did not pay attention to each other. And Grace had a strange relationship with her husband. If even in the first year of married life there was some passion, then in the following woman was needed to him solely as a beautiful toy. The man was very pleased at social parties to present a companion to his beautiful wife. Closeness between the spouses was no more than 2 or 3 times a month. Michael gave himself to his work. It could not be said that this was particularly upsetting to Grace. For more than a year, she had a fitness trainer as her lover. A 30-year-old man, tall, fit, very handsome. Grace was very attracted to this man. Periodically, by lowering her husband's bank card balance, Grace would lavish her lover with expensive presentations. The trainer was a little silly, however the body was divine. In fact, Grace only needed one thing from him. "Maman, I'm going out," through the Stepson, slamming the door. Harry didn't really answer to his stepmother, even less obeyed her, but his father's request for Grace to be polite to him was fulfilled by the boy through and through. "He's finally gone, so I can sunbathe naked," Grace thought as she untied the knot of her bra behind her back and pulled down her panties. The woman disliked it immensely when the overall tan differed from the tan on the covered areas. At some point, the woman decided to roll over and expose her beautiful back and slender legs to the warm rays. The glass, wine and book were put aside and the woman just enjoyed the warmth. The man's hands awakened Grace, who had fallen asleep. Michael had promised to return early tonight, hinting at intimacy. It had been 2 weeks since they'd had intimacy. Grace hadn't seen her lover in 5 days. The instructor was homesick with a cold. Grace was still pretending to be asleep, letting her husband's hands stroke her body. A light massage of her shoulders followed, stroking her back. In a few seconds, Grace felt the weight of her husband's body. "My Michael has lost some weight." The last thing the woman thought under the weight of his body. The next second, she was swept away by a storm of emotions. "Oh, that feels good." It was the only thing Grace could utter. Opening her eyes and turning around sharply, Grace saw her stepson's face. The woman tried to break free, trying to throw the 18-year-old off of her. But the young man had anticipated this and held her firmly. Suddenly there was the sound of the door lock opening. It had recently begun to jam. Michael hadn't had time to change it, and Harry and Grace had no desire to bother with a repairman. The boy quickly hopped off his stepmother, pulling on his pants on the way, and Grace tried to find the swimsuit that had been removed. By the time Michael walked into the house, it was pretty decent. Perhaps he took so long to come in because he caught his horns on the top door jamb. "Honey, you're back." A woman came out of the balcony, having had time to fix her outfit and wipe away the remnants of her sinew. Grace kissed her husband gently on the cheek. Harry, on the other hand, was long ago in his room and minding his own business. The evening promised to be festive. Michael had made another deal and was in a great mood. The table was set for the occasion. Grace wore an expensive dress with beautiful lace lingerie underneath. The head of the family sat at the head of the table, and Grace and Harry were on either side of him. Over a glass of wine, the stepmother and stepson's gazes met several times. However, Harry, like a true spy, did not even give any sign of what had happened shortly before. It was not in Grace's plans to tell her husband what had happened. She was well aware that it would destroy the family. By nightfall, Michael, encouraged by his work success and wine, embraced his wife. Grace responded with a hug and a kiss. They fell in the luxurious bed, undressing in a hurry. In the morning, Michael habitually rushed to work. Grace had prepared a delicious breakfast beforehand. Still, a woman in this house had duties other than rest. Harry was still sniffling in his room. Institute vacation. Grace showered, applied light makeup to her pretty face. Even at home, the woman liked to be pretty. An hour later, Harry woke up and half asleep and made his way to the bathroom. Grace had started living with Michael when Harry was only 11 years old. She had always treated him like a child. However, after yesterday, the woman looked at the boy through a different prism of perception. Harry was 180 centimeters tall. On his stomach was traced quite embossed abs. His arms were not masculine beyond his years. After doing his morning hygiene routine, Harry decided to lie down for a while longer. Grace was hesitant to talk to her stepson for a long time, but after half an hour she came into his room. "Harry, what was that last night?" the stepmother asked rather gently. Harry remained silent for quite some time. Being very brash and spoiled by life, this time he meandered. "I've liked you for a long time. You're so beautiful, so attractive. I've been thinking about you for a long time. I don't even look at other girls," the guy answered timidly. The boy sat on the edge of the bed with his eyes down. He had really grown up, quite handsome, interesting. Probably lying about the other girls. He was too skillful yesterday, the woman pondered. Grace had long ago turned from a sweet girl into a self-serving, calculating lady. In every deed, in every word spoken, Grace looked for gain. She would calmly cross a man, stepping on him with a sharp heel, if this person was not profitable and not needed. At times, Grace felt that she had a heart of stone, incapable of compassion or remorse. In front of her now sat the young, sexy boy she always had in easy reach. Technically, there was no familial connection between them, so why not? Grace took a seat next to him, her already short silk robe pulled up to the limit, just slightly hiding her innermost parts. Harry glanced at his stepmother. The woman had no underwear underneath the robe. Harry looked at the woman with mesmerized eyes. Grace reached up to the boy's head and her fingers went into the locks of hair. A couple of moments, and the woman sank a passionate kiss on the lad's lips. Harry staggered back, but after a second, he began to respond to the woman. His hands stroked the woman's beautiful body, slowly pulling down the light robe. The lovers' meetings were almost daily. It had been a long, long time since the fitness trainer had been sent away far and wide. Grace enjoyed Harry during the day and Michael in the evenings. Lately, Grace's cheeks had visibly turned pink. She had become more fluttery, which did not go unnoticed by her husband. He liked his new wife. On another evening, Michael announced that they were going out to dinner at a restaurant with his business partner. Such meetings were frequent, represented socializing and usual farce. However, in this case, the partner turned out to be really serious. Over the past 6 months after the above events, Michael's business went downhill sharply. The man was thrown several times, played the role of the instability of cryptocurrency, non-fulfillment of conditions to creditors. No, there were still significant assets, but the former greatness was no longer there. That's why a new partner was very important to Michael. Grace began preparations from the very morning. The woman visited a beauty salon, a stylist, made a chic manicure, bought a new fashionable dress. In general, by the evening the woman simply shone. The restaurant charmed with expensive decoration. The whole family was seated at the table. Opposite was a rather stylish man in his 50s, Michael's partner, his charming wife and daughter. A tall, beautiful, very charming girl. Her expensive outfit gave her extra charm. The girl was no more than 18, but she already looked as if she had stepped off the cover of a glossy magazine. The final touch of this splendor was a chic diamond necklace around her neck. However, all these preparations ceased to mean anything when Grace found Harry sitting next to her, not paying attention to her and cooing very sweetly to the girl. The girl was reciprocating the guy. After another toast for joint cooperation, the fathers of the families announced that the young will soon get married. They love each other, besides it will help to unite the family and their contractual agreements. Grace's mouth almost dropped open in surprise. All her life, accustomed to self-interest, there was no way she wanted to lose Harry now. She was so attached to him that she couldn't think of a day without him. That evening she was already reprimanding her husband. "Darling, aren't you ashamed to marry your son solely because of your business dealings? Grace, you don't understand. Too much has happened at my firm in the last 6 months. We're on the verge of bankruptcy. A partner is a breath of fresh air for me. He's able to create a really mutually beneficial relationship. Besides, have you seen the way the kids look at each other? How in love they are. That would be the perfect foundation for our relationship." In bed, Grace referred to a headache, and within minutes, she heard her husband's quiet sapping. She ran to Harry's room. The loving stepmother was well aware that the boy would marry someday. However, she didn't think it would be so soon. "Harry, honey, have you really decided to get married?" The woman almost tearfully spoke through her eyes. Harry hugged Grace gently. "That's what father wants, but I only love you." "Do you hear me? I only love you," Harry said as he gently hugged his stepmother and then kissed her sweetly. Always before, they had taken advantage of Michael's absence from home during their lovemaking, but now passion had taken over. Despite the preparations for the wedding, Grace's meetings with Harry did not stop. They had intimacy at every possible opportunity, wanting to say each other as if it were their last day, and yet the wedding day had come. A fancy restaurant, tons of guests, guest performers. The bride looked like a Disney princess. Harry also wore an expensive suit. The guests praised the bride and groom, calling them the most beautiful couple. Everyone was having fun, making loud toasts and wishing them all the best. Grace alone looked more gloomy than ever. In the last 6 months, she had become attached to her young lover. She hadn't been looking for an affair for a long time. She hadn't wanted novelty for a long time. She had simply fallen in love with Harry. It seemed she had fallen in love for the first time in her life, and here he was given to another. Grace, accustomed lately to elite drinks, was now stupidly drinking whiskey, having even received a few remarks from her spouse about the limits of decency. She wasn't interested in boundaries right now. The woman only had eyes for Harry, who was kissing his fiancée. Under the general merriment, few people noticed an unattractive man in a coat, who proceeded to Michael's partner. An envelope appeared in his hand, which immediately passed into his partner's hands. Examining the sheets of contents, the partner's eyes rounded. He stood up, the music stopped. "The wedding is over," the man said loudly and with a swift stride headed for the exit, tossing the envelope to Michael, who was seated at his right hand. Michael pulled the pictures out of the envelope. It was unknown who had taken the photos and under what circumstances, but they clearly showed intimate scenes of Grace and Harry. The spouse sitting next to him looked at the photo out of interest and was indescribably horrified. Who did this? When did this happen? Went through Grace's thoughts. "Bitch, get out of here," roared Michael, and then already quietly, but with undisguised menace said, pointing his finger at his son, "Tomorrow I don't want you in my house." With that angry tirade, Michael also left the restaurant. All her life, Grace had been smart and calculating. She had fallen in love and relaxed for the first time in her life. Bitterly, she paid for her weakness. Dear friends, thank you very much for watching. Leave comments, put likes, share with friends, and subscribe to the channel.